I want to talk about why I got into politics, why I talk about politics so much, why they're important. Now, anyone who knows me knows that less than 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't care about politics. I'm going to give you the long version, but I'm going to try to keep it short. All right. So when I was learning about Christianity, when I was learning about defending the faith, when I was learning about, I was watching Christians debate atheists, and I learned to identify arguments that people use, and understanding the importance of, basically I learned the laws of logic, appealing to standards. I learned, if you learn the law, I guarantee you, most of us, we know most of them already, because when somebody says something that's stupid, that doesn't make sense, we say, that doesn't make sense, you're contradicting yourself, that sort of thing. But if you actually study the laws of logic, it will change your life, and it will change the way that you see politicians. It will change it will change the way that you listen to any kind of argument where somebody appeals to something when it comes to morality or justice and that sort of thing. Basically, what I learned is that when it comes to standards, you have to be consistent. And this is common sense, but you can't have a standard for you and then a different standard for someone else. That's the definition of inequality. Now, how does this play into politics? There's so much more I could say, but I'm going to try to keep this short. The way this plays into politics is the politicians who advocate for equality are not advocating for real equality. They're advocating for a standard that's not going to be applied equally across all spectrums. Let me give you an example. Roseanne got, and this really isn't a politician thing. This is this is a culture thing. Roseanne was fired for her racist tweets about the woman, the VJ Valerie Jarrett, I think her name is. Jimmy Kimmel went on TV in blackface. Jimmy Kimmel went on his TV show on blackface. There are so many different things that I can point to. Now, I'm not saying that because one person was wrong that someone else is okay in doing what they're doing. My point is, if you look at what happens when white people say something, when you look at what happens when a Trump supporter says something, compared to the outrage that you get when a liberal says something on the same level of offensiveness, or a black person, you won't see the same standard being applied equally. And sometimes people will say, like, oh, so what? They had the upper hand, or they had the favorite. They had like special privilege or whatever. We deserve it too. That's not equality. If that's the way you feel, then that's the way you feel. But that's not equality. The problem is people project special rights as equality. For example, Christians, everybody knows about the Christian Baker thing, right? There was all these protests that these Christian bakers were basically ruined because they had personal conviction against making a cake for a gay couple, a wedding cake for a gay couple. Now, if you disagree with their stance, I understand that completely. I'm not here to argue or try to convince you. What I want to point out is it became national news. They practically lost their business. Their names were ran through the dirt. They were called bigots and all this other stuff, right? But like I've posted on Facebook before, there's a coffee shop that denied service to Christians in Seattle, I believe. He refused to serve them because they were Christians. He even said to them, they said, well, why are you being so intolerant to us? And he said, well, I'm gay, so I bet you wouldn't be tolerant of me if I had my boyfriend here. So get the F out of my coffee shop. And if Jesus was here, I would F him in the butt. He actually said this to Christians. No national news. It made a few headlines there, mostly conservatives or Christians or whatever. But that is just as equally as bigoted and even worse than not baking a cake for someone. I shouldn't even have to argue that. But there's no outrage of it. You probably don't even know that happened. But you know about the bakers, right? There's a coffee shop in California that refused to serve police officers. They said police officers are not welcome here because we don't want our people being for the safety of our patrons. Right? I had a notification. For the safety of our patrons, we don't want police here. Isn't that discrimination? Isn't that inequality? Now you may say, well, that's a business owner, that's a personal right. That's the same thing people said in the 50s and the 40s when they didn't want to serve black people. You can't have it both ways. This is what I'm trying to point out. Now, the gay community, the people who, the gay community, the political gay community, political Muslim community, the political, basically you think of any group, the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Think about this. The Black Lives Matter had a march, and they had a sign that said they were chanting "pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon." Is that not disrespectful to the cops out there? Is that not offensive? Is that not hate speech? It's legal, but it's hate speech. You won't see any outcry against that, but you'll see an outcry if one cop, just one, not a whole march of people, if one cop makes a dumb tweet or makes a bigoted, why is it right? Keep itching. If one cop makes an ignorant tweet about black people or whatever, or poor people or whatever, it will be front page news. It'll be front page news, and it'll be all over TV shows. You'll see Al Sharpton, you'll see Jesse J, you'll see all these people who make a living off of hate speech, basically. They make a living off of people feeling like a victim. That's a whole nother story. But my whole point is, a lot of people who have good intentions, who really believe in equality, and they don't want to see people being hurt, they don't want to see people being treated less than a human and that sort of thing. Their intentions are good, but at the political level of how that activism often plays out, it plays out in a way that does not create equality. It simply tips the scale from one side, that they believe is like has the upper hand or whatever, or is doing the inequality. It basically shifts the power from the oppressor to the victim. So now the victim, people who are labeled as victims, can say or do all of these things that if the so-called oppressor did, the oppressor would be chastised and condemned for it. But now the other side does the same thing, and it's justified because they're viewed as victims. Now, what does this have to do with Christianity or anything? The thing is, the Bible is offensive. The Bible is offensive, and it's offensive to gays. It's offensive to people with other religions. It's offensive to people who believe in abortion. It's offensive to a lot of different people. The Bible promotes a peculiar way of living and says that this is what God said, this is how God wants you to live, and if you do it differently, you are wrong. You're condemned. Not even necessarily live, but I'll just go with live, all right? I'll just go with that. So the Bible teaches that. Now, in this unequal culture of anyone who feels victimized now has the power to ruin someone simply because they felt offended, even though that person himself may be just as offensive as the person they're crying out against. What's going to happen with the offensive Bible? What's already happening? I gave you the example of the coffee shop owner and how he treated those Christians because they were Christian. The Christians didn't go in, they didn't tell him you need to repent. They didn't know anything about that. They didn't know he's gay. They didn't say you need to repent. They didn't say, hey, you need to become a Christian. They didn't say any of the stuff that would actually understandably offend people. They just went there for coffee, and he knew who they were because of their work in the city. They were, earlier that day, they were protesting abortion, and they came to his coffee shop to take a break. So he attacked them, and I've seen it happen several times. He attacked them because of their belief, not because they did anything to him. He attacked them because of their belief, and then there's no backlash. But if a Muslim does a terror attack, and we point out, hey, there's things in the Quran that actually, I can see why this person got the idea that he should go kill people, then you're demonized as attacking that religion. And what you'll see is you see politicians going out of their way to defend Islam, but they don't do that with Christianity. Now, to be granted, Christianity and Islam are so different that you don't really see Christians in the front view as being violent and aggressive. However, when they are in the news and being attacked and being accused of being bigots and that sort of thing, you don't hear politicians defend them. You don't. At least not liberal. Not the loudest voices who speak on inequality. Not the loudest voices on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube. So this is why I try to point this out. This is why I point this out. The people who cry, the people with the loudest voice, crying for equality, equal rights, and all of that, they don't apply it equally. They don't. And since the Bible is offensive to the way that this culture is going, let me tell you, the Bible is against same-sex marriage. The Bible is against transgenderism. The Bible is against abortion. The Bible is against sex before marriage. The Bible is against so many different things that this culture promotes and encourages, that the Bible is very offensive. So now, if you have a culture that increasingly babies people who feel like victims, and increasingly attacks anyone who causes discomfort in someone else's happiness, you already know what's going to happen with the Bible. It's already, the Bible prophesied that would happen. It's actually happening in some places. I mean, this is a little different, but go to an Islamic country. They're not going to allow you to have a Bible there. But that's another point that I'm pointing out about the hypocrisy. No one calls out those Islamic countries. I've seen people defending those Islamic countries and some of their views, instead of saying, well, yeah, Islam does the same kind of thing to other religions that I'm yelling at a Christian for doing. They don't do that. They'll yell at the Christian for what they believe to be discriminatory or oppressive or whatever, but they'll defend Islam when Islam is even more blatant and it's worse. So, and this is not to bash Islam. This is just to point out the hypocrisy. All I'm saying is, you may believe and you may think that what is commonly being presented as equal rights and equality and fairness is really not. It's something totally different. Just like when it comes to abortion, they call it a woman's right to choose, or a woman's right to control her body. Is that really what abortion is? That's not what abortion is. Abortion is killing a baby. It's about the decision whether or not it's okay to kill a baby. But what they do is they take terms that everybody would agree with. Equal rights for all, common sense gun control. They take things that make sense to everyone, but can have totally different meanings depending on the person who hears it. So they take those things, and you're like, common sense gun control, duh, yeah, I'm for that. But then what they mean by it, and many times, is very different than what you're going to mean by it. And that's just how they do. You have to understand that if you switch the power from, and I'm just going to use the language that people use all commonly. If you switch the power from the oppressor to the victim, and you allow the victim to do the same things that the oppressor does, you haven't improved society. You simply change the classes. And that's what's happening. That's what people think they're tearing down a class. They basically, when people are offended, they suddenly cry victim, victim, victim. Think about the whole Me Too movement and how it's getting out of hand. It's like it started off as a good thing, like civil rights movements and everything. They start off as a good thing, but it creates, when you don't check it, when you don't put boundaries on it and you don't hold a consistent standard, it creates an environment that anyone who has a bad feeling about someone can go out and can cry victim and ruin someone's career, ruin their life, or both. And that's the society that we're creating. You know, it's to the point where it's like it's wrong to tell someone who's morbidly obese, hey, you're morbidly obese. I've seen people, there's a 55-year-old man who identifies as a 6-year-old child. He had a wife and kids and everything. He had a wife and kids, and he's a 55-year-old man. He identifies as a 6-year-old child, and he actually found a couple to adopt him. So now he's living, this grown senior citizen man is living as a 6-year-old girl, and he plays with 6-year-old girls. He's a grown 55-year-old man. But the whole idea is, when you create a culture that says you can't offend people, people's personal happiness is the most important thing, you allow stuff like that to happen. There's no way around it. You can't base reality, you can't base morality on whatever makes people happy. Because you got people that kill, you got people that are pedophiles, you got people that steal, you got people that like causing problems in other people's lives. You got all the stuff that people do. And you can't make a standard, a policy, or create a culture with a limited set of people in mind. Let's say gays, let's say Muslims, let's say Christians, let's say men, let's say women. You cannot create a policy or a culture with a particular set of people in mind and ignore how that culture or that policy is going to affect the rest of the people, the implications it has for the rest of the people. So one of the greatest things I've learned recently, very recently, is simply to look at the implications of what people were actually advocating for. And they're dangerous. They're very anti-biblical. They're very dangerous. I mean, just look at our society. You know, in school, people are taught that you have no special creation. You're just an animal. You're just a highly intelligent animal. There's no God. There's no purpose. You're just you're just a moist robot, basically. We go to our universities. We tell people, oh, you're just basically an ape. I know that's not specific exactly the truth. You know what I'm saying? We tell people you're basically an ape. You tell people do whatever makes you feel happy. And then people go out and they do drugs. They get overweight. They get in bad relationships. They go down this dark path trying to find themselves. And it's like it's wrong to tell a person, hold on, this is not the way to go. You're being self-destructive. That's now being called a bad thing, when literally that's the main thing Jesus did. That's exactly what Jesus did. That's what John the Baptist did. That's what all the prophets did. They said, you're heading down a wrong path. It's going to end badly for you. So that's why it's important. This is why I call out the culture. This is why I challenge the culture. And when it comes to black people specifically, I can give you the best garage. I can give you the best tool set. I can give you everything you need. I can give you the education to fix a car and everything. I can wheel that car into your garage. But if you have the mindset that that there's nothing you can do to fix that vehicle, well, that nothing will work, then you won't do it. Even though you have the tools, even though you have the facilities. And that's my view of the black community. We have challenges. There was wrong done to us. You can argue that there are still some injustices being done to us. I'm not going to argue with you on that. What I will argue with you is, you can't act like nothing hasn't changed since slavery. You can't act like nothing hasn't changed since slavery. Even if they aren't where they want you to, excuse me. Even if things aren't where you want them to be, you have to take hold of the things that have changed and the newfound freedom that you do have. We make individual choices, regardless of being put in bad situations, which some of us put ourselves in those situations, but let's just say, regardless of us being put in bad situations, we have the individual power to make choices on which path we're going to go. Everybody's not going to have the same education. White, black, male, female, rich, poor. Everyone doesn't have to have the same education. Everyone's not going to have the same opportunities. But what matters is making a decision to live your life a certain way, to aspire to something greater than what you're presently experiencing. Or you can decide, I was dealt a bad card, so none of this is my fault. And not take ownership, grab hold of, not show any power, and just sit back and let life happen to you. And that's what too many of us do. We let life happen to us. I fall into that a lot of times. Like when I take a blow in life, it takes me a long time to get up. I wallow in self-pity. I feel sorry for myself. I've gotten much better at that. But, I get very discouraged, and it tends to take me a long time to get my fight back and say, you know what, I'm going to go at this again. This project, career, hobby, whatever it is that I'm trying to do that I feel like I'm failing in or I'm having a tough time in, it takes me a long time to get back and get back up and start fighting again. The problem is a lot of us never get up. We don't even try. And that's our problem. You can't scream black power and then have the mindset that, why should I fight? Why bother? I don't have any power. The white man has all the power. You can't do that. So I call out that hypocrisy. Not necessarily to make people feel bad, which if you feel bad for being a hypocrite, that's a good thing. It's not necessarily to ridicule people. It's to point out the silliness of the position that you're holding. So you can't say that black people are the best people on the planet. You can't say that black people are powerful and amazing, and then turn around and say, the reason why our black communities are in shambles is because the white man is so powerful, because the government is so powerful, we can't do nothing. They got us bound up. Then you're not powerful. And admit that you're not powerful. The problem is, we have, and this is something I had to learn myself. I'm going to give you a short story. This video is long. If you're still watching this, bear with me. I'm going to give you a short story. Last year, I tried to, well, I'm going to say I tried, but last year I started basically a business for myself. Electronic repairs, buying cell phones, fixing them, flipping them, that sort of thing. Where I stand now is that it's basically died off. I don't have the money to keep going. I'm currently unemployed. I've made some bad business decisions. I've made some bad career decisions that put me in a situation where I have basically nothing now. But I learned a lot. But let me tell you something. Just the simple idea, and I'm not done yet, but just the simple idea that I could make money for myself, it had never occurred to me. I'm thinking I have to go to school. I have to have some kind of special skill or this or that. It never occurred to me that I could make money for myself. Be my own businessman. Be my own business owner. And that changed my life. If I never do that again, which I definitely plan to, if I never do anything like that again, it completely changed my life. All I did was took the knowledge that I naturally had from doing something that I loved already, and I turned it into a way to make money. And it just made me think, how many people have hobbies? Even if you don't have formal training, you have a hobby or something that's giving you a skill that you know how to do something. You can provide a service for someone, or you can create stuff for someone. Or even if you, I don't even know what I'm about to say, but basically it's like you never started out with this hobby or this thing with the intention of making money off of it. But it's something you've learned. And even if you never make money off of it, you can pass that along to your kids. You can pass that along to your relatives. You can pass that along to the kids in the neighborhood. And I'm telling you, being the idea that I can create something for myself in this country is a life-changing thing. And the problem is, and this is why I'm getting to the point, our black community discourages their mindset. We say basketball or rap, right? Basketball or rap or drugs. We don't have the idea. Let me tell you how many things I've done over the past 2 years. I've designed headlights. I've painted headlights. I've done stuff in my car when I knew nothing about cars at all. When I got a car, I knew nothing about cars. I didn't even know how to I'm not even sure if I knew how to pump gas. But I completely changed my car. Well, I don't have it no more because I'm unemployed. But it looked at nothing like it did when I first got it. My kids loved it. And they loved it not because it was awesome, but because I did it. It was so special to them. My cell phone business, I employed my kids. They loved it. I guarantee you that will change their life. The idea that they can make money, just them being able to see how they can make money, it started off where they didn't really want to do anything, and I'm pushing them. They didn't really want to help. They wanted the money, but they didn't really want to do anything. They wanted to do it when they wanted. Once they started getting paid, they started seeking out stuff. My kids, my 9-year-old, now he's 10, my 10 and my 13-year-old, they started going online looking for items for us to buy and repair. Without me telling them this. I didn't tell them to do this. But they saw the business model. They saw that they could make money, and they went out, and it inspired them. So my whole point is, we don't speak that kind of hope into our people. And this is what I challenge. I'm not challenging the people who don't have the hope. I'm challenging the leaders who don't speak the hope into the people. I'm challenging the people who say you can't do anything because the white man's holding you down. The only way you'll get ahead is if you vote for me. That's oppression. That's not black power. That's oppression. So that's what I call out. That's what I'm calling out. When it comes to police brutality, there are self-destructive behaviors that our culture has that leads us to be in that position. So whether or not, regardless of how you feel about the police, and especially if you believe the police are unfair, you ought to be challenging your people saying, look, the system is unfair. The system is designed to keep you down. Stay out of it. Go a different way. We don't do that. We don't say anything to people. Most of us turn a blind eye until people get involved with the police, until a person's locked up, until they're killed by another black person over a drug deal or a basketball game or something. We wait until the tragedy happens, and then we say, this isn't fair. Why does this always happen to us? No, what you do is, just like you would do with any child, we have to love each other enough and be uncomfortable enough. And this is hard. This is really hard. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it at all, and it bothers me. We have to be willing to challenge people to say, bro, you're headed down the wrong path, and not baby them when they don't need to be babied. Yes, some people need to be encouraged. But again, I don't challenge. It's very rare that I call out. You won't see me. I don't post things like, look at this guy. This guy, he sells drugs in this part of the city. He's killing our people. I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't say this guy's a thief. I don't care that he's just, trying to feed his family or he doesn't have to do that because he has money. I don't do that. I call out the leaders. I say none of your leaders are telling you what you need to know to better yourself. And people yell at me. People get mad. You say your polemics are disgusting. You're so negative. You're waving a Confederate flag. You're a coon. No. People who tell you what you want to hear, when what you want to hear is bad for you, those people are bad for you. That's oppression. That's brainwashing. All the stuff that y'all accuse Christians of, all of this, that's what you're doing. Right? And my phone is about, let me see how much battery I got. Can't even check. I got 6%. I'm good for like 20 seconds. So I'm gonna wrap this up. When you see my posts, when you see my videos, notice who I'm challenging. I'm not challenging the everyday brother or sister who's struggling to live, even though that's necessary too. I don't challenge them. I don't go to I challenge leaders, because our leaders are leading us to the pit of nothingness. Our leaders are not leading us to black power. Our leaders are leading us to dependency on the government. You can't do anything until the government changes things. You're surrendering your power with that mentality to the government. You surrender your mentality. We can't do anything until the white people change. You're surrendering your power. You're telling your people that you're telling them that they themselves are powerless and they cannot change things on their own. That is a lie from the pit of hell. And I will argue against that until the day I die. And there's nothing that none of y'all can say that will change that. I don't care how much you don't like it. Okay? So that's what I attack. That's my position. And I will continue to do so.